I was going to join this older guy in practice and purchase his practice. And this guy's the highest volume surgeon in Philadelphia. He does all of the surgery for the optometry school in Philadelphia. And he's a wonderful surgeon and a little bit of a spicy guy in general. Hasn't worked with another partner because of his personality. Just never really learned how to play in the sandbox with others. So he's been solo for all these years and he's approaching 70, needs a succession plan. And I was going to be that succession plan. So we contracted up. I had it all laid out, how I was going to purchase the practice and everything. And I gave notice to my other job. And 3 days before my last day at that job, I get a call from this guy I was going to go join who says, yeah, I just got an offer from private equity that I can't refuse, so this isn't going to work out. So all of a sudden, I had already given notice to my job. I don't have a job lined up. And I'm just out on a tightrope with no safety net. And I went home, I called my dad, and I was like, I need you to come over for dinner tonight. And he was like, why? I was like, I need you to just come for dinner. He was like, tell me why. And I was like, I just lost my freaking job. And like, we hang up. I called Morgan. And like, she's amazing as always. And I'm like hyperventilating. And she's like, it's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. We're going to make this work. It's going to be okay. And then I went out and saw a bunch of patients and went home that night. And my parents came over. And I'll never forget this. My dad comes walking up the stairs. I lived on the 3rd floor. So my dad comes walking up the stairs and he has this, my dad has like a natural frown. Like he's just naturally frowning at all times. Whether he's happy or not, he just has a frown on his face.
RBF.
Yeah, he's got a resting frown face. He's an RFF. And my mom's the opposite. She's always got a smile on her face. So my dad walks up the stairs with his RFF and kind of just this, I can tell he's scared. And then my mom walks up the stairs and she goes, Mommy's here now, and gives me this big hug. And I just burst into tears. And like, I'm not a crier for things like that. Like I'll cry at like a golden buzzer moment at America's Got Talent or like at a wedding, but not because I'm sad, except in that moment. And we kind of sat down and tried to figure out like, what's going to happen next here? And so I called up the old practice and I told him what happened. And I had this like reckoning moment where I was like, I'm the problem. Like if I could have just like put my head down and just not created waves at my first job, I would have been fine. I was making fine money. I had partnership potential. Everything was on paper okay, or at least I told myself in that moment. And I asked, like, would you consider letting me stay for a bit? Because they'd already replaced me, which was fine, reasonable. But that person wasn't starting till July. So I asked, like, could I stay for a bit at least? And they said yeah, which was really nice of them. And I was really grateful for that. But at effective July, I had to go. It's like, okay, reasonable. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do in July. This is end of March. So I start talking to all my friends and family. I'm like, what am I going to do? We talked and I could go join another practice. I could join academia full time. I could quit medicine and go work at industry. And my sister-in-law, Rachel, was the first person who, when I told her, like, I'm the problem, I needed to just play it cool, put my head down, do my job. She was like, yeah, I don't buy it. I don't think you're capable of that. I think you need to just open your own practice. And she's like the sweetest human alive. And she's usually so, what's the word when she just like appeases the situation, you know, like normally she would just kind of go along with whatever it is and flower it up and make it seem like it's okay. But in this moment, she was very direct. It was like, no, this is the only thing you could do. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I then went to
Young MD
Connect Live.
I'll never forget that classic line.
I was on the panel for practice changes.
Final panel of the entire meeting.
Final panel of the whole meeting.
These young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed med students in residence.
Do you remember what I said?
Yeah. Y'all ready to hear some shit?
And then I laid it on him. I told him what happened, what I just said. And I said, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Schaefer Vision Institute, SVI, and I'm just going to do it. And that was the first time I publicly declared it to myself, really. And because I put it out in the open, I had to do it.
You didn't have to do it. A lot of people publicly declare things out in the open because it's easy to talk about hopes and dreams and aspirations. I've always been of the mentality, the more you say something out loud to others, different than maybe manifesting it for yourself, the more you're giving it to the universe, and the more it's almost like you get this internal sense of accomplishment for something that hasn't really happened yet.
Yeah.
So we both know plenty of
idea.
people who say, oh yeah, I'm going to open my own practice. And a couple years go by and they're still talking about opening their own practice. But you declared it and you knew internally it has to happen.
Yeah, no other option right now. I'm doing it. So I went home from that meeting and I kind of put my head down. I went on Google Maps. I found the local highways where they all converged. I found a Whole Foods nearby to make sure that there was some affluence. And I decided that Plymouth Meeting, which is a nice centrally located suburb outside of Philly, outside of my non-compete zone, would be the location that I would open up my practice. And Mainline Surgery Center, which is really the premier surgery center in the Philadelphia area, would be where I would do surgery. So bunch of people are texting me like, what's going to happen? What are you going to do? So I had this boilerplate message that said, big announcement. Luckily, my former job is letting me stay until June 30th, at which point I'm going to go and open Schaefer Vision Institute, SVI, in Plymouth Meeting, and I'm going to operate in Ballackinwood at Mainline Surgery Center. I had already formed the corporation at that point in time. The corporation is formed, and I'm so excited to be on this journey together. And that message went out to whoever asked what's going on. And that included people from industry, friends and family, staff from my old practice, any patient who had reached out to me about it. Because at that time in the county that I was in, I was the only person who did dislocated lenses or cornea. So there's no one to follow up these transplants or do dislocated lenses at the time. Now they've replaced me now, but at the time, like, people are worried. So I sent out that message, and 3 hours later, my cell phone service gets cut off, my email gets cut off, and my EMR gets cut off. Mind you, this is March 30th. I'm supposed to still be at the practice, the old practice, until June 30th. Because it was the end of the month, I assumed that because I had already given notice that they just told Verizon cut off my phone and like cut my email at the end of the month. So I sent a message to the practice administrator. I was like, hey, we forgot to tell Verizon I'm not leaving and I got cut off. Can you turn that back on? Because I'm leaving I was going off to various places. Like, we had a whole series of trips planned in preparation for that, and we were leaving the next day. And my phone didn't work. This is my phone with my cell phone number that I got at my bar mitzvah. Like, this isn't like just a work phone. Like, they paid my work phone bill, but it was my cell phone number. And she doesn't respond. I was like, that's weird. So then I messaged 2 of the partners, and they don't respond. And it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like, something's weird. And like, I can't get in touch with Morgan. She's at work. Dev's at daycare. I don't know who's going to like pick him up. I'm like supposed to pick him up, but like I feel as though I need to like be around to sort this. And I'm like starting to panic. And I like had that feeling inside of me like something's wrong here. I call Verizon. They won't reactivate it without the approval of the practice. And it's now 8 p.m. Hours are going by. I still don't know what's happening. And finally, I get through to Verizon again, and they said, we reached the practice, and the managing partner denied the request. And I was like, oh, they know this is happening. This is intentional. And I finally, at like 11 p.m. that night, get a message from the managing partner saying, Brian, we will not be renewing your contract. Period. And I responded and I was like, this is very confusing and concerning. Can you please share why? And he goes, you'll be getting a letter from our attorney. I was like, what? What happened? The next day, I get served a cease and desist stating that we have reason to believe you've been soliciting patients and employees. And if it happens again, we're going to pursue legal action. And I was like, soliciting to what? I don't have anything. Like, not only did I lose the job I was going to have, I lost the job I was about to keep for a little bit to have some revenue. And now I'm like worried I'm going to get sued. Oh, and by the way, can I have my cell phone, please? So finally, they released the cell phone number. That was a whole thing.
How did you get that done?
They finally authorized it. It was not easy, but it was authorized. And then I have to go to my old office to pick up my stuff. And when I get to the old office, that partner who is the one who is calling around to ODs and whatnot, I get out of my car and he is standing there and he's like, hey, what's up, buddy? It's like, are you serious? We're not like that right now. And like, I didn't say anything else. And I start like moving stuff into my car and he's like helping carry stuff to the car. And he's like, I feel like I'm moving my buddy out of their dorm room. I was like, are you not comprehending the gravity of the situation here? Like, this is very real for me and my family right now. Like, my wife is terrified. And like, Morgan is such a rule follower, and the idea of getting in trouble is like the worst thing in the world to her. And now she's worried we're about to get sued. Which, like, looking back, a cease and desist is not nearly as serious of a thing as it felt. And I think, to their credit, they realized, like, he shouldn't come back. He's going to be in our general vicinity. It's going to be competition. They asked their lawyer, how do we unwind the fact that we told this guy he could come back? The lawyer said, do the lawyer thing, which is cut off access and send a cease and desist. That's what a lawyer does. It wasn't them who like made the decision to do that. But they followed that lawyer's advice, even with the fact that like they've held my child. That's what felt so dirty about it. And I'll tell you,